From North Greenville's Tim Brazier campus in Greer, South Carolina, this is Show After the Show, and you're getting to know the people that make this community so great. Zack and Julia are along with us this afternoon. They are part of Precision Tactics. Now, this is a great outreach for the church because they literally help people handle high-pressure situations, the church in particular. But one thing I want to do is get to know Zack and Julia because their journey to get them to where they are today is really intriguing to me. I mean, here you are. You've got a 2-year-old, right?
Yes.
Little baby in the home. Well, I say a baby, but Samuel must be like the most awesome kid in the world.
He
yeah,
is.
he's a little wild man.
Sam can count to 10. He knows his colors. He knows all his body parts. He knows what a plane is. He knows what a plane's wing is, what the tail of the plane is.
He's really smart.
Yeah, in essence.
Yeah.
He's already a prodigy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
because of you two. Now, from what I understand, you met each other in high school. Is that right?
That's
we
right.
did. I'll let Julie tell you the details if she wants to.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so I was kind of a popular person in school, and Zack is actually a couple years younger than me.
Yeah.
So, I wasn't going to date anyone younger than me. So we were friends, though.
Mm-hmm.
And then we reconnected in college. And
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was trying to join this Christian organization, and Zack was already involved. And so I messaged him on Facebook of how I could get into the organization. And then, yeah.
Now, at first, did you go to the Citadel? Is that right?
I did. I was on the Air Force scholarship.
Oh, for real? How cool is that?
Yeah, and so I did the whole knob year. It was gruesome. And then I decided, I felt like the Lord's just leading me not to go in the Air Force. So I'm like, I'm not staying at a military college if I'm not going into the military. So decided to transfer back to USC.
And that's where you guys connected. When you got the message from Julia, what did you think?
I didn't really know. She said, hey, when are you guys meeting, etc. And I said, well, we're meeting this Friday. And so we went and hung out, and then everybody left. And so Julie and I actually rode together. So, I picked her up, or we met somewhere. And it was funny because she actually met my parents that night. So she met my parents before we were dating.
Got that out of the way.
Yeah. So they liked her, obviously. And then it just kind of flowed together. It just did. It was just, it was, God was just leading us together. That's pretty much how I can say it.
Were you like out in the woods or something? Because I understand guns, you grew up with guns pretty much.
Yeah, I did. So my dad and my uncle and I, we would go hunting. Obviously, we hunt, fish, that kind of stuff. And then just growing up through the times, I always was intrigued by guns. Not in a violent way, you know what I mean? But I just always loved guns. I just always had a desire for them.
Yeah, out in the gun range and hunting and all that other stuff,
naturally,
right?
Yeah, a group of my friends and I, we one of the guys I used to hang out with, we get together every Wednesday night. One of them was Richland County Department Sheriff, and then one of his friends, his parents had land. So every few months we'd put all our stuff in the truck and we'd go, blast a few hundred rounds out, just out in the property, just learning how to shoot, just training, just being around it.
And martial arts, is that right?
Did that for 5 years. I have a black belt in Kuk Sul. It's a South Korean martial art. Did that for 5 years until our school closed down, and just been practicing since then.
Now, you did not have guns in your life until you got married, I guess, right?
Yeah, when we started dating.
Okay.
I was never against guns, just never grew up around them. So I was kind of afraid, And so Zack actually, I got my first apartment, and he brought over a revolver. And he said, I want you to keep this in your apartment. And I'm like, whoa, I don't know what to do with this thing. And so he was like, I'm going to show you. And so I learned how to shoot pretty well, shotgun, AR-15. I know it's controversial, but AR-15, pistol. So I'm pretty good now. But before I was like, oh man, what am I going to do with this guy? And for the record, he told me, before I knew about guns, he said, yeah, when I was younger, I used to watch this show all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Every weekend, I watched it over and over. It was Eddie the Eagle. And he would tell me about Eddie the Eagle. And I found out, years later, that Eddie the Eagle is the NRA safety bird for kids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so he's really been into guns since he was younger. Because I had no idea what Eddie the Eagle was. So that's my kind of journey with guns, but so it's exciting though.
And I love what you guys went to school for because you're like an IT guy, right?
Yep.
And then you went for social work and public health.
Yeah.
And I think that's so cool at how God's journey brought you to where you are today with your company and helping the church. And if I understand this correctly, something really stirred your heart when the incident at Emmanuel in Charleston took place.
Right. So any event like that is horrible. And every time we see it, it's just, and let me preface this statement with this. We're not the typical gun company. We're not going to say everybody needs a gun, everybody should have a gun or anything. But we definitely feel that you got to be prepared. And so we started doing CWP training. And I mean, this is somewhere along the way. We started doing CWP training.
Which is concealed weapon permit.
Concealed weapons permit training. And it's adequate for the fundamental knowledge. It gives you all of that, which is perfect. But actually employing and using a firearm in a public setting, you really need to do additional training for that. In order to do it efficiently and safely.
Yeah, because with CWP, you're like, you take a test, you go to a gun range, and boom, that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
For the most part, that's about it. And so in doing that, we saw, it's like, look, there's got to be more training. And so seeing things happen like Emmanuel, seeing things happen like the Sutherland Springs church shooting, or any of the ones in schools or out in the public, it's just we have to do something, because what we're really working toward is putting a guard around churches, but also providing a security mindset to people, because that's really what it's about. Survival isn't chance. It's based upon decision. It's based upon preparation. And then preparing as much as you can, and then if it falls down to not making it, then that's one thing. But we got to prepare and have a mindset of defense. Yeah,
because you can have the tools but react in such a wrong way.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because imagine if you've got a church, and we've heard this before. The churches that we know we've got so many people that carry, and we don't have any way of controlling it, And it's like, no, you've got South Carolina law behind you. But imagine a church of 200 people. We'll say even worse. We'll say a church of 3,000 people in one setting. An active shooter stands up in the middle of it and starts shooting. You've got 16 to 20 people with guns trying to converge on one spot, and everybody else is trying to get up and run. That's a bad combination right from the start. And so what we want to do is increase the knowledge, increase the awareness of these team members, so that when that situation occurs, Lord forbid it does, but if it does, they know how to move and operate smartly.
Yeah, because one thing, like a church of that size or any size, instead of people getting up and running for the exits, you want to drop so that you can see who in the world is the perp.
What's going on.
Right.
Yeah. You got what we teach is we teach people, and also the people that carry, unarmed and unarmed, is process information. You want to process what's going on first, then decide. You want to think first, shoot second. What we really say is process information and then providing a deliberate response is what it is.
I understand the statistics in all of this. It's just mind-boggling.
Right.
Yeah. Like in 2019, just this year alone, there have been at least 70 mass shootings. And we're in, what month are we in? April. And so that's pretty significant. And then with church shootings over the last several years, there have been about 20. And it's growing, because what people have to realize is that you're facing evil, and we're serving Christ. As the body of Christ, we're serving. And so evil is always coming after us. Right. And so it's not that you don't trust in God, but you trust in God, and then you use the resources to be able to be prepared so that you can fight off the enemy, And so the statistics are crazy, and I believe that they're going to continue growing because of the way our world is set up.
Our culture, social media, it's getting too glorified. There's just too much evil that's happening.
Yeah.
More so. And you're preparing us, which I am so grateful. You even have the church think about the culture of all of this. Instead of calling them security teams, you say, don't call them that, call them something else, right?
Yeah.
Right, because safety teams are regulated. So, not safety. Security teams are regulated. So the official term is safety team. And a lot of churches just don't know, because they don't know. They don't have access to that information. And so we'll get phone calls, say, yeah, we've got a security team, and we're putting these things in place. And so the blessing is that people are getting started. They're getting knowledge. They're getting motivated. They're going, and they're taking steps. One church we just spoke to this week, they called, and he said they used to have the same people on the usher team, just always doing the same thing. He said, nope, we've reorganized it. We've got 4 different teams now, and we're doing this and this and changing these different things around. And it's great, because what it's doing is it's getting people more defense aware. Like what the goal of an active shooter, right? The goal of somebody who's looking to cause harm is to get inside a place that's limited, cause as much damage as they can, and either die or get out. It's one of the two options. They just want to hurt people as much as possible and then go from there. And so what we've got to do is start learning how to batten down our churches. Batten down. We don't want to restrict access, but we also want to control the flow, so that you know exactly who is coming in and out of those doors. You've got to be able to do that. And if you can't do that, then you're a soft target. That's what they look for. Mm-hmm. They look for places they can get in easy, carry something in straight on in without any resistance, cause damage, and then die or leave. If you look at most of the cases, the active shooter commits suicide or is arrested post, with law enforcement. And so what we're doing is anybody that's going to be armed, you just need to have a mindset awareness. Anybody who's going to be unarmed in those situations, anybody in the mall, anybody in Walmart. There was a shooting recently at a grocery store. The guy went in the store, shot some people, walked out into the parking lot looking for other people to shoot. And the reason he went to that store is because he couldn't get inside the church that he was planning on getting to.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was something.
Yeah.
He couldn't make it to the church or couldn't get in the church. I can't remember the exact details right now, but so he went to the store. So where there's a will, they're going to make a way to do what they want to do.
Yeah, and don't even need a gun. I mean, one guy went to the Mall of America,
and
his whole intent was, I'm gonna off somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we look at guns, and I'm not going into the gun argument right now, but we look at guns as the primary source of this problem. That's not the case. Several years ago, when active shootings really started spiking, there was a guy in China who stabbed 22 kids. I mean, that's a knife.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't regulate kitchen knives. You just can't do it. And so our goal has to be shifting our culture so that we're raising more healthy adults and more healthy kids. Because right now, we're just teaching them to kill people since they're 3. So
that's horrible. I love the way that you do some of the training because you do it virtually.
We do.
Yeah.
It's not a replacement of live fire training. It's a complement to it. This is getting the mental side of things going. We had one lady we were training. She was hearing impaired just a little bit, and so what she does is she'll read people's faces to communicate with them. Well, in one of the scenarios, there's a guy in her house coming straight at her to attack her. In the scenario, she could not pull the trigger on the fake scenario. And so what we did was, and I hope I'm not embarrassing, I'm not telling who it is, but what she did was we made her redo it. And when the guy started coming, we yelled at her, hey, you got to pull the trigger, you got to pull the trigger. She pulled it, she shot him, he fell down, and immediately after it, she started crying because she reads faces. She connects with people through their face. And so for people like that, you've got to be able to make that decision to do it, because how many times have we seen something where a woman will pull out a gun on a bad guy and then won't use it, and then he has the gun and takes control of the situation.
Yeah, and with our simulation and virtual, like you said, it allows you to be in that real world scenario. You feel the stress, you feel the anxiety, you feel the panic, so that hopefully in an actual event, you'll be less likely to panic and you can save a life or save your life and somebody else's life. And so my thing is, what I like about how we do it is that we'll travel to a church and we'll set up at that church. So they're training in their environment. They're having the active shooter in their church, virtually.
Right.
And then they're responding to that. And so that's why it's pretty different, and it gives them that advantage, because 9 times out of 10, unless you're law enforcement or military, you haven't experienced what it feels like to be in an active shooter or be around someone aggressing you or attacking you. And so you're not going to react how you think you would. Everyone's like, oh man, if an active shooter walks in here, I'm going to do that. No.
Not when it's happening.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why we like the virtualness, the simulation, because it actually gives you that chance to experience those emotions and be able to control that fight or flight reaction. So
I'm so glad that you're serving God in this way. Yeah. It's going to help the church big time. Just keep everybody safe, which is so good. Hey, I hope that you use their services. Maybe you can bring this to your pastor, or if you are a part of a church and on the team, let them know about Zack and Julia, because they'll come in and they'll help you and keep your church as safe as possible, which is a great service that you guys do. I love that. We can connect you up. Just click on the link that we have on this page on Show After the Show. We'll see you next time.